All right, Louis. So before we break, there's a couple of other things that I wanted to discuss, among which is these Peter King hearings that we've been talking about.
Oh,
And
boy.
yeah, you're telling me. We talked about this a while back, and we said he is going to be having these hearings, Congressman Peter King from New York, that seek to find out about the American Muslim problem. And we said, you know what? It really sounds to me like McCarthy hearings. It's starting to talk to not accuse, but investigate people based on associations and religion and identity. And it started today, these hearings did, and some people are calling it the Muslim Un-American Activities Committee. I don't even know where to start, except that Peter King himself said, despite what passes for conventional wisdom in certain circles, there is nothing radical or un-American in holding these hearings. Now, one of the more compelling moments that took place was Keith Ellison, who is one of the only two Muslim congressmen. He started telling a story about a first responder who happened to be Muslim and went to 9/11, and he actually died in 9/11. And he really was shaken up about it. And I'm trying to find it here because we did not, let's see, I believe here it is. Just give me a second to find it. And Keith Ellison really is a guy who is the perfect example of what are we talking about here? You know, we have a number of different religions. We have freedom of religion, supposedly. People have the right to do whatever they want in terms of who they want to worship. Yet we have an establishment, which is the default of the Christian religion, something that supposedly, according to the Constitution, we're not supposed to have. And that is where I believe these hearings are going wrong. And some of the congressmen involved are pointing that out. They're not afraid to point that out. I don't know if you were able to see any of this today, Louis.
I was not, unfortunately.
So let's get to Keith Ellison here and telling this incredible story. And this making news right away, for obvious reasons, very compelling testimony.
That his new Honda was the one that read with the Young Jedi license plates. Mr. Hamdani bravely sacrificed his life to try to help others on 9/11. After the tragedy, some people tried to smear his character solely because of his Islamic faith.
So Keith Ellison, very shaken up there. Again, one of the only two Muslim congressmen. And you know what? This was all convened because of what Peter King termed a growing threat of homegrown terrorism among Muslim men in the United States. But again, barely a mention of so many of the non-Muslim at all related incidents that we've talked about for years, Louis. The right-wing, domestic, white guy. I mean, if we're going to say Muslim men, just white man, Christian man terrorism. And
I mean, by definition, if a U.S. citizen is a Muslim and perpetrates some type of terrorist attack, that's domestic terrorism.
right.
So how many domestic terrorist incidents can we name from Muslims?
Well, you're asking me to name all of them? I mean, we have the Times Square bomber, and then we have the Corporal Hassan from Fort Hood, right? And then there's the underwear bomber, which I guess kind of is U.S., but it started elsewhere.
No, he was a foreign citizen.
You're right. The reality is that we have a narrative about Muslim terrorism, but then we also have almost completely unaddressed over 20 actual incidents of domestic non-Muslim terrorism, and they're barely discussed, and 60 foiled incidents. You're absolutely right. Fox News, very actively supporting these hearings. I know, by the way, they do hard news, but they're supporting this. And our new poll up on davidpakman.com is, are Peter King's Muslim hearings attacks on Muslims overall? Regardless of what the nitty-gritty details that people can equivocate on the whole, are these attacks on Muslims?